On that note, educate us, because you see, me, I come from a Rastafarian father, so there's certain things I already grew up knowing. But a greater part of our community, the Israelite community, don't really understand the Rastafarian connection to being an Israelite. So give us the perspective of the Bible from a Rastafarian's perspective, right? Give us a little bit about what Rastafarianism is for people who don't know.
Okay, so you know, and within the Bible sense, because so there's two different aspects now of looking at Rasta, because you know, even within the community, we once have kind of like a bicker about it, whether we're dealing with just the historical aspects of what makes somebody a Rasta versus other sense, and other branches will go more off of the biblical sense, meaning, you know, some once tried with the Marcus Garvey energy as just like what Pan-African, where so and so, and all that kind of sense. But when dealing with now the biblical aspect of what Rasta is really about now, it's starting with being an Israelite, and it's still this day gonna be that. And it's the reality of it is because a Rastaman is every day is getting up and saying it's into the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. Everyone's wondering, where is this? What tribe is he talking about, from who? And it's the Ethiopian connection, right, through Haile Selassie. So a Rasta believes that Selassie is the 225th descendant of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Right. Selassie, Rastas are also coming under the understanding that the ark was brought into Ethiopia as well, through that understanding. So whether some Rastas view themselves spiritually or physically as an Israelite, they have that branch, because the ones that would say, Selassie is my father, so whatever Selassie is, one's them is, right? And at the same time, one's trotting with locks, and one's is asking, why Rasta have locks, or they have locks because of this. Really, the Rastas are interpreting the Nazarite vow of what it is to grow out the hair, the beard, and the locks, and they take it on a serious level. They're not, you know, at least the real ones do, is that there's no wine, they're not going near the dead. You know, I know a lot of elders to this day are not catching them at nobody's funeral. That's why they have songs like funeral. They have, you know what I'm saying? They're keeping that strength. But a lot of people just look at it like, reggae music, ganja, you know, these are some different kind of people, but missing out that aspect. So now when we're dealing with the branches now within Rasta now, that's where it gets interesting, because a Nyabingi Rasta looks at themselves more as a real Pan-African person that's trying to revitalize the African culture, from the sense of having the Nyabingi circle, the Nyabingi drum circle with the fire pit in the center, and one's them is chanting, and one's them is, you know, burning their herbs and doing stuff, and one's them is chanting psalms over these rhythms and over these certain things. Now, when you're looking at like a Bobo Shanti, which a Bobo Shanti, were before that, actually, the Nyabingi now, they trot with the locks openly. They don't usually wear anything on it. They have the locks out and they're shaking the locks like, yo, it's a way to rebel against society. Like, yo, isn't me with dread, right? And so they kind of have that outerly rebellious appearance. When you're dealing with now the Bobo Shanti are more dressed in a Levitical order.
That's right. That's the priestly class.
Priestly class, you know, they're like Melchizedek order, nothing can cross it. So, you know, you got them wearing, you know, a tunic or, you know, something of that matter. They don't show their hair. Their hair is tied up.
Always.
And always tied up. And then ones that are really strict is people normally look at Rasta like, okay, they're all bunning herb anywhere. Bobo Shanti are not bunning herb nowhere. The herb is fully a sacrament, and that's behind closed door. They don't even let their regents see them doing it.
That's,
you know, and how they set up what they call their tabernacle area, the tabernacle is interesting, because they have the men on one side, the woman on one side. They have what is called a fire key, right? But they keep, the fire has to keep burning. It can't someone has to be in charge of making sure that that fire continuously burns.
And I want to stop you for a second, because right now you're talking about the Bobo Shanti class of Rastafarians. And visibly, that's the type of Rastafarian that you always see with a turban, even the women, turban, have a wrap up, right? And a lot of people may or may not know, but that's where Capleton hailed from. He's a Bobo Shanti. That's why you don't see Capleton locks. It's always up. And in his music, you always hear him say, ever burning, ever blazing, keep the fire burning. Right? So what you're saying right now is just, you know, making me think that all these years, that's exactly what Capleton is referring to, man. But forward, keep going, man. I'm enjoying it.
And physically, it just burn in everlasting fire. Because my cousin actually is Sizzler Kalunji, right? On my father's mom's side,
man. Small
on my father's mom's side, that's my cousin, and stuff. He's Bobo Shanti, so I was raised seeing him around, you know, kind of just, you know what I'm saying, always turbaned up, always keeping a certain man, like a thing. He's with like you're not catching him loose, you know what I'm saying, on that type of time. And it's very interesting. So like within that order, they have this kind of thing, and to me, you know, like I said, they're keeping more of like a Levitical order according to them, because even now the women now, right, when they're dealing with a woman with them, the women have to be separated from the men when they're in their cycle. They have a separate housing for them, right? And the men, instead of the woman cooking or doing that, the men cook. And not only the husbands of those women, the people in that village that are actually just a part of the community, they're also cooking food for other people's wives, and they're making sure they're as comfortable as possible while they're going through their.
I gotta stop you for a moment, because you're saying a lot, and some of what you're saying might go over somebody's head. So we gotta focus for a second.
Man.
I hope everybody just heard him say clearly that this particular class of Rastafarians, known as Bobo Shanti, what they do is that when their women are on a cycle, they're in a completely different living quarter. They're not in the same place. That's biblical. And so when we speak as like when people on the Black American side looking at Rastafarians, like you said, everybody just think of a Rasta man as somebody that just blaze up the chalice, you know, smoke ganja, smoke weed, and you know, might wear a khaki suit outfit and always saying fire to Babylon. But it goes much deeper than that, right? It goes much deeper than that. It's a culture. It's a way of life, and one in which in many ways reflects the Levitical order that we can see in the Bible. And where a lot of people may differ is how Rastafarians view Ethiopia and how they view Emperor Haile Selassie. And so that may be the line that's drawn of the major difference. But apart from that, many Rastafarians live truly biblical lives. So this is what I want to make sure that you highlight in this particular segment. Speak towards those customs, those ways that Rastafarians have that really emulate things that can be found in the Torah.
So we would then have to talk about the eating habits, because it's very much down the lines of how one's view like kosher eating, or based off the scripture, how one's eat. There's no shellfish happening. There's no pork. There's none of those things. All those things are completely cut out, right? Prayer is happening as you rise. Specifically, since we're speaking of the Bobo Shanti, because I'm going to get into 12 tribe, and that's going to lead us into a vibe. So specifically with them, they're waking up. The drums are beat on all four corners. So they have the drum. It's hung up. It's hit to represent the scattering of the Israelites on all four corners. It is an awakening. It is like almost like a shofar to them. It's like once that is hit on all four corners, it rise up. Everybody come to meet up in the courtyard, and you know what I'm saying. And then from there, once them start the reverence with the prayer. And
powerful symbolism.
It's like elders. So the one thing with them is the thing, they go priest, king, and prophet spiritually. A priest, king, and a prophet.
And I believe that's the order. Yes,
that's the order. So depending on who you are, you fit in those realms, and you then now have to live your life in that way. And it's taken very seriously. You know what I'm saying? Youth coming up young, like priest. Them have to learn. And the thing is, it's not even like some regular thing. These kids are learning Psalms and everything word for word. Like by the time they reach anywhere near here, they know the whole Tehillim. You know what I'm saying? They know they can just out of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Also, if you want to enter those quarters, you're not wearing no denim. You're not wearing material things that are low vibrational. You can't come in there with that. Woman, if you have the makeup on, that is gone before you enter. If your hair isn't tied up, your hair is tied up when you're entering this realm. If you come there in jeans as a woman, you're gonna need to put on some form of dress, and they'll go get you the dress to put on. You know what I'm saying? They'll make sure you have one of those. I see a brother come in and he said, like, yes, Orthodox. Yeah, you can think about it. They're very Orthodox when it comes down to that kind of a breakdown, right? And so now we move into 12 tribe now. So 12 tribe, you know what I'm saying? 12 tribe now comes under this kind of an overstanding to where the views are a little bit different now, because they're not just saying, oh, before I even leave Bobo Shanti, I can't even know how I even forgot to bring this forward, right? The leader within Bobo Shanti, Prince Emmanuel Charles, right? He's looked at as, you know what I'm saying, he's like the Melchizedek to them in the sense of holding a certain kind of an order. He's also sat with government officials trying to work on repatriation. Not a lot of people even know that as Rasta. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't just up in the mountains. Like, he went and sat in the rooms with people trying to make things happen on that kind of
and you know, my brother, I gotta say this because a lot of people are shy, especially men. You know, as men, we got egos. People shy to say they never heard a term before. You know, a lot of Rastaman speak about like repatriation, the return to the fatherland. So when you use them terms, make sure you define it, because people over here, a lot of them haven't heard terms like that.
Haven't heard that. Yeah. So like how everyone is like, all right, so I'm sure maybe some people in America, as we know of the Marcus Garvey and the movement, the Back to Africa movement.
That's right.
Everyone knows. So Bobo Shanti is heavy on Marcus Garvey and Marcus Garvey's teachings. If you notice, Bobo Shanti doesn't even hail up the normal Ethiopian flag. They hail up the Garvey flag.
That's
you know
right. The red, black, and the green.
Exactly. And it's the opposite. The Ethiopian flag, as we know it today, has the green on the top, and for them they have the red on the top. So it's like a little division between them and how they view it. So when one say repatriation and you hear in reggae music, repatriation a must, it's like homeland. We need to go back to our homeland. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. So within the culture, outside of the biblical sense, it's like we need to regain back self, whatever that is, whatever culture we have lost before. We need to regain that. There was an elder by the name of Multima Planner. We used to go back and forth to Ethiopia, and he would get people that know Amharic, and other languages of that sort. He would bring them into these communities and have the early Muslims learn the language. And he said, if we're ever going to re-emulate ourselves back with people on the land, we need to, you know what I'm saying, be living that life here in Jamaica, kind of. Right. So that's a big thing too, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like really they're working to restore this kind of energy. So now into the 12 tribe now aspect of the stuff. The 12 tribe is kind of like the 12 tribe, before I even get into them, since I just mentioned Ethiopia, 12 tribes were the first branch of Rasta to actually make this repatriation or this back to Africa thing. They were the first ones to go into Ethiopia and establish what we know now as Shashamani
land. Right.
The thing is, with that land, it's controversial now because that land is not just given to Rasta, but Rastas promote it like, it's just given to us. It was also given to Black Americans that were willing to go fight in the war.
That's right. That's right.
At that time. And anyone in the Caribbean, you know, so it was the Diaspora, you know.
Right. Just for the sake of context, I just want to jump in and just kind of add something for everybody, because as Haile Selassie becomes more acquainted with the Black experience here in America and the Caribbean experience, namely in the island of Jamaica, he sends envoys and ambassadors to get them galvanized towards coming to Ethiopia. And one of the things that he does is he allocates a space of land known as Shashamani land, and that was given to people that would come back, repatriate, but also fight and be involved on behalf of upholding Ethiopia. And so one of the people on this end that actually took him up on it, and was one of the first people to go, is Rabbi Ford. So Rabbi Ford went there and even raised children, and he adopted children from Ethiopia. He brought back a son whose name is Rabbi Hailu Paris, who's a natural-born Ethiopian from his father repatriating on the orders of Haile Selassie. So this history runs deep. So this has to be told.
This is a coming together, you see, of the American community, the Caribbean community, that is kind of like a gray area in between, and people don't really, think of both coincide like that. And that's a big thing. So the 12 tribe kind of made themselves more in a political sense, to where like they dressed up in like more suits, more things of that kind of a thing, because they were trying to go talk to people in higher places to establish, certain business, certain opportunities and stuff like that. But then within the 12 tribe belief, as you know, in the name, it says 12 tribes. So each person based off, like we mentioned at first, each person based off their birthday, you know what I'm saying, when the stars align, they're giving a tribe. And when you come into the 12 tribes headquarters, you're the embodiment of that tribe, meaning that your functions and your duties within that movement have to function as if, you know what I'm saying, you was from that tribe. Right. So if ones go in there, like with Levy, if you go in there, you would be there to function as such. Right. A big key thing with the 12 tribe order is that it is, I'm sure some have maybe heard it in a song or two, it's a chapter a day. You know what I'm saying? They're a chapter a day. They don't miss a chapter a day. You wake up, they're reading a chapter a day, so and so on and so forth. And a lot of the reggae artists that we know of today actually hail from the 12 tribe, because the starter of the 12 tribe, who he is known as Prophet Gad, and he also did music as well and stuff like that. So that's why we see a lot of the great reggae artists we have today actually come out of that branch. So was Bob Marley, right? Dennis Brown, you know what I'm saying? Even the new heads today that maybe some people watching would know, Chronics and the Protodays and the, you know what I'm saying? And those kind of people within the movement all hail from that, out of that grouping. So we have these branches, and then there's smaller branches, but these are the main branches that create and build Rasta. So to say the Rasta movement is very much a Israelite overstanding, but specifically connecting it to Ethiopia and Haile Selassie specifically.
All right. All right. And I could respect that, because again, I came up around it. So, as I've said a couple of times on my live stream, the very first time I heard the name Judah wasn't from somebody reading the Bible. That was the name of my father's best friend, who was also a Rastafarian, here in Flatbush, New York, Vanderveer to be specific. And so, coming up in this area and seeing how Rastafarians moved, that was the first time I heard of the 12 tribes of Israel. Not really connecting it all together, but at least I was hearing it, right? So, later on, a couple of years later, when my friends Akiva Ben Yehuda, Banahu Ben Yehuda, and Kemuel Ben Yehuda, all sons of a great Israelite leader here in New York City, known as Crown Prince Zarishadai Ben Yehuda, when they would later on introduce me to the Israelite faith and exactly what that was, I wasn't altogether ignorant, because of the Rastafarian environment I had already been, a part of in some sense. And so I want to talk to you for a moment about, what would you say is the thing that really connects a Rastafarian with an Israelite, apart from the obvious cultural connections that we may have? Like, is there anything else scripturally, any one thing that stands out to you that you've seen in the Israelite community and you've seen in the Rastafarian community, and you could say, yo, like, we have that the same? So, just think for a second in your mind about the practices and the ways, and we can even come back to that question. in fact, we're gonna come back to that question
okay.
as we forward to something else. So talk to me about Sephardim and whether or not you are connected to them via prior ancestors or you coming into it. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so this is probably like the biggest find that I've had in my journey, right? So so I would say maybe about maybe about 4 or so years ago, right? I'm a person, I'm big into genealogy, DNA, and all that thing. I feel like you need that plus the scripture and the historical overstanding, you know what I'm saying, to put all of it together. So although prior to that, I've already viewed myself as an Israelite, this was prior to my son being born. And I then kind of already knew of my mom's lineage and stuff like that. And I'm just walking around like, yo, I'm gonna have a son, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who is he? Like, who am I? You know what I'm saying? What am I passing on? And all this kind of stuff. So to say what happened for me was I did a various of different DNA tests, right? I did 23andMe, I did My Heritage, and then I did African Ancestry. A few friends was like, yo, don't do African Ancestry. It might not come back to an African tribe, because of this or because of that and all this stuff. And over time, I just got over that and was like, yo, I'm going to do it because my 23andMe actually showed me Ethiopia, Spain and Portugal. I have I'm not shy to say it. I have some Ashkenazim, even based off my 23andMe. You know what I'm saying? Got Nigeria, all these different things. Family started to write me that was Jewish. It was Cohen, people with the last name Cohen and Levy and all these different people writing me like family in New York. I have like probably hundreds of cousins in New York. And a few of them reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? Like reach out to me. I'm like, whoa. So I seen all of that in my 23andMe, but I was really focused more on our, you know what I'm saying, the melanin side of things. I kind of put all of that to the side. It wasn't until upon having my son that I reopened that kind of a lane within the studies, right? And what ended up happening now was I did the African Ancestry, and they can't find no African tribe for me. Right, for that side of the family, right? They gave me Spain. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. So I now I have to go back into the drawing board, go into the records and everything. So then I started to analyze the family members that I was in contact with, as well as records that I found on ones coming into Jacob. The main thing I found was everyone that I was related to, first, second cousins that I found through these DNA tests, coming through my paternal line, none of them hailed with their last name that I had. And they were like, wait, how are we from the same thing and your last name different from us? So I came up on a whole bunch of De Souzas and a whole bunch of Levies and all coming from my paternal line. And I'm confused like what this is. In Jamaica, you know, we have this whole like coolie thing where people are like, this person is coolie, that person, you know, meaning like that, you know, mixed for ones that are listening. When we say coolie and stuff in Jamaica, it's like kind of like someone that's mixed with something like Indian or some other thing. Growing up, my grandfather always told me this. He said, look, our ancestors are from near the land of Assyria, wherever that is. He don't know where that is on the map. You know what I'm saying? He said, we're from over there. Don't let anybody tell you nothing else. We're from over there. At some point through my life, I thought this might be a self-hating black guy, right? You know, he's like, oh, I don't want to be from Africa. I want to be from somewhere else. This is when I was younger, so I didn't really understand how he was going into his thing, right? So upon coming up on these findings, now, you know, I reach out to him and I'm like, okay, I found a whole bunch of cousins. They're related to us directly through our paternal lineage. They're not hailing with the same name. They're not doing what? He then begins to tell me that his great-grandfather changed the name for business purposes. And if we know in Jamaica now, a lot of people did that if they were hailing from different countries to get work because Spain, when the Spanish was there, and then from there, the expulsion of the Sephardic Jews now are coming into the island. when the Spanish left and the British is coming in, we had to emulate, as Sephardic people had to emulate in with the British when they came in. So the names went from Spanish or Hebrew names to English names, right? So that's kind of like some of us have that and we don't know because it's lost within the names.
Even some of the parishes like you have in West Kingston, Tivoli Gardens, what we call it, Spanish Town.
Spanish Town. We have El Salvador. We have Ocho Rios, 8 Rivers. We have, you know, so it's a lot of these things that I didn't know, that I didn't necessarily notice about. All right, we have Jamaica. We have a place called, like, what is it? It's a Devon House, right? It's this big old place people go to eat ice cream today, which used to be a synagogue, right? Used to be a synagogue, right? So what ended up happening was I dug a little bit deeper now into the records of the synagogues and stuff in Jamaica. And what I ended up finding now was basically find the whole plethora of the line of the Souza family, right? The whole line of them that were a big contribution to that shul, which is still in Kingston and still active today. Okay. Right, that people go to. So basically, I found my family lineage through that, through the research, through the DNA, and then speaking with family members. So the Sephardic thing kind of came to meet the lost tribe thing on the journey. You know so it all kind of came together, right? So for me, when I found out, it was very big for me. You wanna know why? Because the Siddur that I have, the Siddur that I had was Sephardic Siddur.
Yeah, I got one.
I didn't know why I had it. You know what I'm saying? I could have chosen any other one. It so happened to be. Oh, yeah, we got the same.
Yeah.
What?
Same one, right?
Same one, yeah, same one. So, right. So for me, years prior to finding all of that out, I was teaching myself. Well, Hebrew was just coming to me. Can't even just say I was teaching myself. Like, I don't even know. Like, I can't even explain it. So unexplainable how it ended up coming about, right? I just picked up on it very easily. And I have this thing, which I will be working on a book. You know, Baruch Hashem, one day it will come out and it will be on genetic memory and what it is actually remember, you know what I'm saying, our past ancestors and you know what I'm saying, and how we were prior. So for me, I felt like it was just kind of something, I don't know, it was like embedded. It was just something embedded that I needed to just reattach to. Like I would just, you know what I'm saying? It was just a natural thing. So coming up on my Sephardic ancestry, I went from all the angles that you can go from the DNA to the genealogy to records that I found. And then also what sealed it off was finding the records of the names of my actual family members within the synagogue records of Jamaica, because there was 2 times in history that synagogue was burnt. And luckily, the records of my family still stayed. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I came up on, you know, Sephardic Jewry and the Sephardic Minhag. Yeah.
That's important, man. That's important. A lot of people, when they think of the island of Jamaica, the last thing they're thinking of is a synagogue. The last thing they're thinking is of a Sephardic presence and people that's, you know, speaking Hebrew and practicing the culture in the island of Jamaica. That's the last thing people are thinking about.
Man. It's the last thing.
And to know that there are Black people that have foundational DNA roots in that as well, you know, is a very important link to be able to speak towards, man. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that with us.
To add to that too, the Jamaica till this day has the oldest cemetery, or Jewish cemetery, or Israelite cemetery, whatever we want to call it, in the Western Hemisphere.
Wow. Repeat that again for the people in the cheap seat.
Jamaica has the oldest Jewish or Israelite cemeteries in the Western Hemisphere. We have cemeteries where it's all the gravestones are written in Hebrew.
Hold on, because we just got real hot in here. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Everybody needs to throw up the video, share the live stream, because when we come back, this brother going in.
Caribbean Kitchen, Foods offer 7 unique blends of premium, low-sodium Jamaican seasoning that will add a burst of flavor to your dishes. Our authentic, all-natural Jamaican seasonings are a game changer when it comes to adding a burst of flavor to your dishes. Our products are kosher, all-natural, contains ingredients that are gluten-free and GMO-free. Our seasonings are handcrafted with the highest quality ingredients. We source our ingredients from the Caribbean to capture the authentic taste of the islands. Unleash your creativity in the kitchen and savor the taste of the Caribbean with our spice blends.
This season is sure to make history.
Jersey Shore Family Vacation. New season premieres tonight at 8.
All right. The man say liquid means rewind. The gunshot means forward. You requested it, so we rewind. Bring it back.
Oh, you mean, man? Yo, so to back to what I was saying, yo, there's approximately 14 different cemeteries around Jamaica, and some of them right now are being revitalized. Like, people are coming, Sephardic people from nobody talking about this. Sephardic people from all over the world are coming into Jamaica, and they are revamping these cemeteries. Some of them are their families to be in these places and all this stuff like this. This is the cemeteries where you're finding skull heads, like the whole pirate thing, right? All in Hebrew. So this is showing us from an early time the presence of them being on the island. Another key thing is too, Jamaica right now, I guess some people said there might be one in Panama, but to speak on the Caribbean, Jamaica has the only Sephardic synagogue that has sand on the ground till this day, where the whole synagogue floor is sand. And that's because of when we were living where we were living, we weren't able to practice, right? This was coming from Spain, Portugal, other parts of these places where ones couldn't necessarily practice openly. And if you know about the Sephardic Jewry, is that we're saying everything out loud. Whereas every prayer is said out loud, everything is uttered, you know what I'm saying, openly. And dance and singing. So the sand on the ground made it to where the enemies wouldn't hear that services was happening in the shul. And the ancestors brought this to Jamaica to where it is one of the only unique synagogues. They don't have that in America. I've never seen one.
I've never been. I've been to several Sephardic synagogues from here to Miami, and I've never seen that.
Never seen that.
And Miami full of sand.
Full of sand, right? So so to this day, and it's in Kingston. You know what I'm saying? When ones go to Jamaica, ones can also visit the shul as well, right? And interesting enough, some of the ones running the shul are people that look like us, that trace back to those lineage. What people don't think about, since we were on the Jamaica reggae thing, we have Sean Paul's family is a part of building this kind of come back. Sean Paul is from the Hernandez family. The Hernandez family and the De Souza family and the Mendez family are the main three families that kept the Jewry in Jamaica.
That is insane, brother. That's
nobody talk about that, but
nobody talking about that, man.
Right? The Jamaica Gleaner, the newspaper, the Star, these are all built from these Sephardic communities. Newspaper, all of this stuff is coming through these kind of communities, right? So so people know him as Sean Paul. He got the name through a cricket player named Shignarayan Shandapal. So
that's right.
He's not using his real name. His real name he's a Hernandez. He is from the Hernandez family that till this day are running that shul, and their family is running that shul. This
is amazing history you're giving us, man. A real exclusive.
So
real exclusive, man.
So it's a lot of us walking around from the islands, because I know, like someone like me, I'm in America, and a lot of people, I would say, I don't know what it is with the Black American community, and like the Caribbean community seems to have like a detached moment when it comes to this. I've even heard some Hebrew Israelites, they're like, oh, we don't know about if them over there are Israelites, but we know we're Israelites.
Right.
Like,
I get that too. Now you got ADOS Israelites. All of a sudden, the people in the Caribbean is not Israelites.
It's not Israelites.
And you know what's crazy about that is because you know, I'm born here, but I'm raised to parents from the Caribbean, right? So what we know about slave history, and this is just facts, most of the slaves went to South America and the Caribbeans. A smaller percentage came here to the Americas. That is a fact of history, right? They say about 70 to 85% of the slaves that were taken were brought into South America and the Caribbean. And this other percentages came to America. So we sound crazy trying to exclude one another when we're all part of Israel. And it's just silly that we polarize ourselves in that way. We are Israel, because here's what happened too, right? For people that don't, because I grew up around a diverse community in Brooklyn, right? You was living in Brooklyn for a while, right? I'm from the Vanderveer side of Flatbush.
Okay, so
90s, 50s, 40s, 2 First, all that, Vanderveer, right? So on that note, I had everybody around us, but you know, Flatbush is to this day Caribbean. So coming up, some of my friends would tell me, yo, like, you know, you're not us. And you over there with them. And my family would tell me, you not us. You was born here. You were So my life was interesting coming up, right? The people here telling me I'm not them. My family like, you born here, you're not quite us. But what's interesting again is, right, what's interesting now is when you check the slave history, right? The bad slaves here in America that the slave masters didn't know what to do with, they began to kill them. They began to maim, and then they began to kill them. First, they began to kill them, and they realized this is cutting profit. I just paid for this guy. So now they maiming them. But in maiming them, they also losing money, because how much work is this guy going to put out when his hand is chopped off or his foot is chopped off? So we got to come up with a better system of judgment and discipline. Now, the story is that William Lynch, which some people say is fictional, the Willie Lynch story, that he had a much better system of disciplining slaves. So many of the rebellious slaves here in America was carried to the Caribbean. So here we are acting like we different people. You don't know how many rebellious ancestors you had here in America that was brought to all parts of the Caribbean. That's why we look and sound crazy when we try to divide ourselves and say, no, you are island person and I'm over here. That whole ADOS thing is crazy once you know the history. Because they sold us over several times, man, and it's heavily documented. But please continue, brother. Please continue.
And just on that same point with this thing too. So being in New York, right, and going to different places and coming across Hebrew Israelites on the street in different aspects. So, you know, ones would see ones and they're like, okay, where are you from? You know, oh, I'm from Jamaica. Ones throw me in a Benjamin, right? It's graft you into, you know what I'm saying? You know, the chart thing. Ones graft you into these different groups, right? To me, it's an interesting thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that I stand fully on that kind of a thing. But to me, it was very problematic for me, because man's them was straight up like, oh, you're Benjamin, you are a little brother. You Jamaicans you guys copy what we do. So we're Judah and y'all Benjamin and all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Right. It was very interesting because here I am chatting with Levy, right? And and man's them on the street is like, yo, you're Benjamin just because you were born on this island. I'm like, yo, that's not gonna work.
Make sense. That don't make sense because
it's not gonna work.
Think about how the slave trade happened, right? They would catch parts of people's families. Like, people think the way slavery worked was that they knocked on doors and took the whole family one by one, and everybody went on the same boat. Listen, some people got away. Yeah, like your mother could have got caught on Monday by slave raiders, right? And your father and your brother didn't get caught for months later. But guess what? They were sent on boats going in different directions. That's why we silly. I don't like talking about the 12 tribes chart, but I'm gonna talk about it now. That's why the whole 12 tribe chart thing is kind of silly when you really check the history, because none of us went to the same places, even as being the same family. Families were divided. The mother was sent to Trinidad. The father was sent to Georgia. The children were sent to the Virgin Islands, and your aunts and uncles was in Brazil. So we sound silly talking about this whole tribe got to be in this one region, and this whole tribe got to be in this one region, when they never caught whole families together. What you think they said when they finally caught the rest of your family? We got to find out what ship to put this one on, because the mother, they don't care about none of that.